7:45 to Manchester now, where the Conservatives say they would scrap business rates for shops and pubs if they were in government. The Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, has been telling his party's conference that he'd offer a tax rebate to people getting their first full-time job. The party also says they would cut energy bills by 20% by axing carbon tax and abolishing wind farm subsidies. Well, let's cross live to Tory conference and speak to Nathaniel Ogunniyi, political consultant and Conservative commentator. Nathaniel, really appreciate your time this evening. Thanks for joining us. First of all, what is the mood among activists and MPs in Manchester? A lot of people noting that the Conservatives struggling in the polls at the moment.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. So I think the members are always here for a good time, right? The members come for party conference and they're the people that are here because they really want to, right? If you're coming to a party conference so far out from an election, then you are really a member of the faithful. And so I think the members that you get here are sort of sub-select of the members, which is even a sort of smaller category of the public at large. The mood amongst them is pretty upbeat. But as I say, they are the faithful. You'll notice that there aren't sort of as many of the journalists or businesses or international guests as you might usually have. But I think the members are pretty upbeat, and they are sort of being fed a diet as we speak. They're being fed a diet of this stuff on welfare cuts, which I think is going down quite well with the membership, on tax cuts for businesses. So I think it's 250,000 businesses benefiting from this business rate pledge and stuff like that. So I think the members are relatively happy with that. But yeah, the wider public not necessarily paying the most attention.
Yeah, what do you make of those policy announcements that we heard today, in particular from the Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride? Do you think they're going to be enough to regain some of the support the Conservatives have lost?
I think the policy announcements are part of it. I also think part of it is a matter of trust. And you can't sort of announce a policy to win back trust, right? Unfortunately, either people sort of trust you or they don't. And that's not something you can sort of shift in the short term. I think by waiting to lay out policies for some time, so instead of sort of announcing stuff as soon as Kemi won the leadership election in November last year, but by waiting just about a year to announce the policies, by thinking them through, by having some sort of logic behind them, and I think that means that the party can demonstrate to the public that they're not just sort of rushing out to say things that they think people want to hear, but that they have given some thought to the policies that they're announcing, and so that they are more likely to go ahead with them when they get into office.
And what do you make of this poll we've had out today from Sky News that has found half of all Conservative members don't want Kemi Badenoch to lead them into the next election? Is there a sense in Manchester that maybe she isn't the right person to be leading the party?
No, I don't think there is. When it comes to Kemi's leadership, I think she's spent a lot of time focused initially on sort of keeping the lights on. And so in her first year as party leader, she spent a lot of time talking to donors, making sure the party was on a sustainable financial footing. And we saw that paying some really good results. So in the last bit of last year and for the first bit of this year, you'll see the Conservative Party raised more than any other party. In fact, they raised more from donors rather, than all the other parties put together, right? And that's incredible given that you have a Labour government with a massive majority. So there is, I think, focus that has been on the donation side of things and making sure you can fund stuff like a party conference and keeping the lights on at the HQ. I think now that you're sort of turning to policy, I think the members will be feasting on the diet.
Yeah, and the same poll also found that 64% of Tory members favour an electoral pact with reform. Now, that is something that Kemi Badenoch has publicly said she's opposed to. Do you think that is something we might see?
So I would never say never, but I think that the Conservative Party would prefer to win a majority in and of itself. I think if there's to be any kind of pact, it would come at the very last minute. I don't think it's something you'd be announcing a number of years out from an election. And there is also a risk, I think, for the Conservative Party, which is if you announce a pact with reform, then you don't necessarily get to take all of your voters with you, because there are a number of Conservative-leaning voters that are in relatively affluent southern seats, so those perhaps in Surrey or those perhaps in Hampshire that are currently Lib Dem Conservative marginals. And by announcing a pact with reform, a number of those floating voters would probably head to the Lib Dems, and so that might lead to some difficulties in sort of returning those seats in those areas. And so if you end up in a pact that doesn't necessarily win you any more seats than you had before, then it's probably not a very good idea.
Nathaniel, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Nathaniel Ogunniyi there, political consultant and Conservative commentator, speaking to us live from Tory conference in Manchester.